You want to stream your Nintendo Switch on Discord, but you don't know how. Well, here's how to do it. First, we're going to need 3 primary things. 1, we're going to need the game console in question. 2, we're going to need VLC Media Player, which is a free download. And 3, we're going to need a capture card. Now, you may or may not already have a capture card on hand. If you do, great, we can move on to the next step. But if you don't, you're going to need to pick up one first so that you can transfer or capture the data from your console and bring it to your PC for streaming on Discord. I'll leave a link to a playlist of capture card reviews from my friend Epos Fox to find you the capture card that's right for you. First, we're going to need to install VLC Media Player, and we can do that from the Videoland website. I'll leave a link to Videoland in the description below, but it's a free, very powerful media playback software with some extra features and tools that we're going to be taking advantage of here. Once you have it downloaded and installed, we can continue. You're going to want to open up the application, so we'll do that here. Once VLC Media Player is open, you're going to want to go up to the top left and click on Media. Once you're in the Media tab at the top left, you're going to want to click on Open Capture Device. From here, you're going to want to select your capture device in question. For me, I can select my EVGA XR1 Pro capture card from the list here. Now, this is mostly done, but there's a few more settings we're going to want to change and correct to ensure that the stream is as good as possible. First, we're going to want to go down to the video size field and enter the size for our video stream. For the EVGA XR1 Pro, it can support up to 4K, but I know that my input for my Nintendo Switch is 1920 by 1080, so that's what we're going to type in this box. 1920x1080. Then, we're going to want to click Show More Options. Down here, we're going to want to change caching to 0 milliseconds. This is very important. Next, we're going to want to go into Advanced Options. From here, we can change the aspect ratio. Now, we know that our content is being streamed in 16:9. If yours isn't, you can change this to whatever it needs to be, or if it's 4:3 by default, and that's what you want, great, you can leave this alone. But for us, we need to change it to 16:9. So we're going to type in 16:9. And that's pretty much it. The rest of these settings can be tweaked as necessary. However, any values that are set to 0, simply use the default values. And for us, that's going to be just fine. As an example, video input frame rate being 0 does not mean 0 frames per second, it's just the default value, which for us will be 60. So we're gonna hit OK, and once that's done, we can come down here and we can click play. And just like that, it'll pop up the stream and you'll have a console live. And you can see, you have audio playback, you have smooth video playback and everything. And we can even jump into a game to demonstrate that this is in fact working live right inside a VLC Media Player from my capture card on my TV over to my side. To finish this demonstration, what we can do now for our stream is simply full screen it. And now you have a full screen game and you can run around, you can play just as normal, and the input latency is minimal. There is an added bit of latency, but most of that is due to the capture card itself, which can range between 30 and even 100 plus milliseconds of latency. If this is your primary way of playing on the Nintendo Switch, you're going to want to purchase a capture card with minimum input latency. Now, from here, all we have to do is simply grab this application inside of Discord with Application Share. All you do is hit Go Live, click on VLC Media Player, and share it in whatever resolution or frame rate you wish. Your viewers or friends will have audio and video perfectly synced up with no need to use anything like OBS projection preview, which can make capturing audio rather difficult. It's just that simple. Now, you might be wondering, do I need to do those configuration settings every time I open VLC Media Player? And the answer is no, but it does take a little extra work. So, we're going to be creating a shortcut. That way you can double click it and it will immediately start capturing your capture card, and you can then share the application on Discord, almost as if you're just running the Nintendo Switch on your desktop. Of course, not quite that simple, but similar. So the configuration settings for the capture card are very important, and it is a bit finicky, but I've trimmed out as much of the fat as possible to make it as easy as possible for you to get spun up. Now, to begin, we're going to need to create a shortcut. From here, we're going to want to type the location of the item. Now, we can pass in the VLC Media Player shortcut here by going in and going down to this PC, and then your Windows directory, for me it's Program Files, and then into Video LAN, and then VLC.exe, and hit OK. Now, of course, you can also go right to the VLC executable file, right click it and hit create shortcut, but this is a more manual way of creating shortcuts. Now, this is fine, and we could hit next and finish it and name this whatever we want. We could say capture card. However, we're not done here, because if we run it, it does work. What we need to do is pass in the capture card settings into the shortcut so that when it boots up, it automatically applies the settings we applied earlier. Now, what I have here is a simple target path for the shortcut. This will have all of our capture card settings that we changed in it already, and we can apply this simply to the shortcut. Now, when you do the configuration in VLC Media Player by default, it spits out a very large string with a lot of redundant information, and the target path in VLC Media Player is rather short, so we actually can't include most of what it spits out. That's why we have to delete a lot of it, which I've done here. And I will put all of this in the description below so you don't just have to copy it from the screen, but let me show you simply what it does. First, it targets the VLC.exe executable file, just like our shortcut earlier, then applies the simple configuration here with dshow, dshow vdev, and then here, this is very important, the capture card name in quotation marks. I was having issues with this earlier because I wasn't putting quotation marks around my capture card. And when there's spaces in the name of the capture card, which most of the time there will be, it reads as a new line, a new command. So you have to wrap your capture card in quotation marks to get it to work. Same here for audio dev or ADEV. This is HDMI, EVGA XR1 Pro Capture Box Audio. Then show size is 1920 by 1080, show aspect ratio is 16 by 9, and then live caching is 0. This is all the configuration we did earlier passed into a shortcut. All we have to do is take this here and apply it to our shortcut. So if we right click our shortcut and hit properties, we can now pass it into the target field. And we can overwrite this entire target field because we include the original path as well to the VLC Media Player executable. So I'll paste that in here, hit apply, hit OK. We don't need this open anymore. And now when we double click the shortcut, look what happens. Right back into our game. And of course, VLC is muted right now because of earlier. If I unmute it, you'll see that we have audio. Of course, anyone on your stream can turn up and down the volume of your application share. However, if you want to turn the stream down for yourself, you can do so inside of VLC Media Player simply by using the arrow keys up and down to change the volume 5% or using the volume slider at the bottom right of the application. For me, I like to stream my games at about 75% volume, but to each their own. And that concludes the simple tutorial on how to stream your console into Discord. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps.